Yo, and welcome back to Creeps and Crimes
Podcast.
I'm Taylar.
And I'm Morgan. Back in the States, baby.
Back in the States, bitches.
I'm back, bitches.
I'm back.
I love America.
It's Brittany, bitch.
It's Morgan, bitch.
It's Morgan.
Grazie.
What's a good curse word that starts with an M? Is there one?
It's Morgan.
Monsters.
Mothman.
Okay, Morgan.
Wait, actually, is there a curse word that starts with an M?
I don't think there's a curse word that starts with an M.
A curse word. Sorry, I have to look it up now. Masturbate.
That is not a curse word. That's a requirement to survive.
Masturbating Morgan.
Masturbate because Morgan's back.
Too fucking far.
I sent Morgan this thing the other day. Meditate, something else that starts with an M, and masturbate. And that's the key to a healthy life.
Meditate, motivate, and masturbate.
Maybe. I don't know. Something like that. And I was like, girl boss shit.
Girl boss shit.
Girl boss, gaslight, repeat. That is exactly the same thing. That is exactly what I'm feeling from it. Anyways, Morgan, give them a quick little rundown of your trip.
Quick little rundown.
Whole thing you can hear on Patreon.
Yeah, if you want to hear literally every detail of every second of every day, you can head over to Patreon and just pipe in Hot Goss
39. It says Morgan's back, bitches.
Morgan's back, bitches.
And to access our Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/creepsandcrimes and subscribe.
Or the link in our Instagram bio.
Yes.
Okay, so it was super, super amazing. We had such a good time. Had a lot of traveling within the travel, which kind of put a damper on things. I wish we had a couple more days there for sure. Like, I think the amount of time that you're going is perfect, and I wish we could have done that, but
we're gonna go back.
Work didn't allow little AA Ron or myself. Yeah, we'll go back.
Yeah,
100%.
100%.
But it was amazing.
Yeah,
it was amazing. Did I tell you I found a Pittsburgh bar?
No, there
in Rome.
What the fuck?
So we walk in and we see like Washington and Steelers. Steelers stuff everywhere. But then like local colleges. It has like Washington and Jefferson flags, Slippery Rock, like
that's
all
so
of these
weird.
wash paw shit like going on. Aaron's like, does the owner is from Pittsburgh or is he like Pittsburgh? And she's like, no, he's from here. He just really loves Pittsburgh. He's like, how do you get all these flags? She says people come and then they send them to him. And so I'm looking around, and then on the back wall is all college flags from America, like Georgia, Florida. I'm like, I don't see a fucking Tennessee flag. I was like, I'm going to send him a Tennessee flag.
Send it with me. I'll take it.
And I should.
Send it with me. I'll take it. Wait, fuck
he
that.
He was so dope. So then he comes out.
We're sending a Creeps and Crimes one.
Yeah. Wait, listen to this. He's so dope. He comes out, and he's like, oh, you guys are from Pittsburgh. He could just tell. And we were like, yeah, you know, we're from... Aaron says like Cannonsburg area, because that's like the next biggest city that you can say that people will recognize. He's like, oh really, like where at? And he was like, well, Washington. He's like, Washington, you know where Amity is? Or no, he doesn't say Washington, he goes Washpa, you know where Amity is? And Aaron's like, yeah,
bro, where the fuck?
Amity is like the tiniest little like township, like it's not even a town,
it's a township.
It's just an area of land
unincorporated
that's
community,
Amity.
Yeah.
He's like, my grandma's from there. And the guy's like, no shit. Have you been to Copper Kettle recently? And like, but then like you couldn't even tell he had like an Italian accent at all. Like he was speaking like fluent American. He had never lived.
Fluent American.
Well,
there is a difference between English and American.
Yeah, he never lived in America.
Yeah.
Ever. And then he was like, he'd go and turn to one of his workers, fluent Italian. Like you would have no idea talking to this man that he was.
That's what I
raised.
want.
Me too.
Why the fuck am I so uneducated?
No, it's so fucking embarrassing.
But I can do the shit out of some fucking sign language.
Yeah, that is true. I can't even do that.
I can do sign language.
I can do a little Spanish here and there, but like,
yeah,
I couldn't tell you a sentence right now.
No. I could give you a sentence in sign language because it's still English.
Yeah.
It's just with French grammar. That's it.
All right, I guess we got to wrap it up.
Okay, guys. If you haven't already, because we were just on live together, I'd been on a little bit getting ready. Morgan came over for this recording. And if you were on that live, hey, thanks for joining in. But if you haven't already, we are taking a poll to see how everybody enjoyed the creepy accounts being on a Thursday versus being on a bonus episode. So if you enjoyed it or didn't enjoy it, please let us know in the comments on the 136 Instagram post. It's purple. Go comment on there.
And also, sorry to miss this, but we recorded 9 weeks in a row. May the 4th be with you. Happy Cinco de Mayo and
Red Dress Day. Missing and murdered Indigenous women. We just literally had no idea what days these fucking things came out.
No idea.
You couldn't have told you. Even if you told me, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
So sorry. So anyways, I'm ready to hit it with ya.
If you're driving, throw that shit on cruise control.
If you got a glass, pour that shit up.
And let's get
creepy. Okay, Morgan, what do you have for us today?
What I have for you today, well, for my own sanity and for the loss of everyone else's sanity, I had to do something alien related.
100%.
100%. I miss my UFO talk. So today I'm going to be covering the phenomena of missing time.
Okay.
So those that are believed to have been abducted show a variety of signs: strange markings, dreams, waking up in a different place, implants, and missing time. And not breast implants.
I was about to say, what?
Yeah, we're not getting...
Wait, we get to go up there and get a free boob job? Abduct me right now.
Abduct me right now.
Right now.
If we get to go see Dr. Miami while we're on the UFO.
And put me with the best surgeon you have, please. Thank you.
Went to Dr. Miami just to meet... How's that go?
I don't
That little
know.
song?
Yeah.
Anyway, while this isn't something new for our listeners, we are going to be deep diving it and discussing one, maybe two, definitely two now, not at the time when I originally wrote the intro.
Oh.
Unheard of abduction cases whose biggest piece of evidence is missing time. So if we're new here, the phenomenon of missing time is like your standard sign that you have been abducted by aliens. Okay? For example, the Instagram video last week of Taylar going in a trance, that missing time that she had, bitch was abducted.
I was abducted.
She was abducted, point blank, period. For example, though, for real, is Betty and Barney Hill's case.
Oh, yeah.
Betty and Barney Hill were driving in a rural part of New Hampshire in 1961 when something in their sky caught their attention. And we've talked about this on a different episode. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but definitely season 1.
Yeah.
But what caught their attention is what Betty would describe as a falling star. This star grew closer and closer until it was basically blinding them. Next thing they know, they're driving their car much further in location than they remember. Betty and Barney experienced the missing time phenomena during their encounter. This was proven by the time that they had arrived home. It was much, much later than they were expected to. But when they thought about their chronological order of the night, they couldn't make up for the time that had passed. The abduction of Betty and Barney Hill is a model abduction example for alien encounters, alien abductions, UFO encounters, etc. It's one of the most famous.
Probably, yeah, I was about to say the most.
Probably the most, yeah. There's a couple speculations as to why people experience missing time. After their encounter, their mind is wiped, or they are transported to this different dimension during the encounter, so when they return, they feel as if no time has passed. When abducted, you are placed into this hypnosis or anesthesia state. Think of like when you got your wisdom teeth out, you go under, like I use this as an example because, or anytime you go under anesthesia, but I use wisdom teeth as an example because most of the population has been under anesthesia for the wisdom teeth. If they didn't, find a new oral surgeon.
Yeah.
Immediately, because it's so fucked up.
That's not right.
But like when you go under anesthesia, you count down and you're like, I'm not going to go to sleep. Like,
no way.
I can definitely make it to 0, 10, 9. Next thing you know, you wake up and you're delusional.
You wake up and you're
like, it is one of the weirdest feelings.
It is one of the most
unexplainable, unnatural. It's not right.
Being knocked out.
Anesthesia is a crazy fucking thing, okay? Yeah. Many speculate that this is actually similar to that trance-like state that those are put into during an encounter or an abduction. Another thing with missing time is that many are actually able to remember and recall those events that took place during the missing time through dreams, possibly visions, but especially hypnosis. This was the case for a man named Robert Matthews. Robert, even as a little kid, had a very out-of-this-world life. At just 5 or 6 years old, he can recall a strange encounter that took place in his bedroom in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Robert had spotted this green glowing figure in the corner of his bedroom in the middle of the night. As 5-year-olds do, and as me, a 25-year-old would do, he screamed.
Yep.
But nothing came out. And along with his voice, his hearing went out. The being started moving closer and closer towards him. It then lifted up his PJs and did something to his chest.
I'm sorry. The pee just like really scared the fuck out of me for a second.
I should have put a trigger warning. Why are we laughing?
Because it just was so fucking out of left field. I wasn't prepared.
His pajamas.
Okay.
And then did something to his chest. But this all happened in the blink of an eye. And before he knew it, that glowing green figure was gone. He told his mother that following morning, but of course she didn't believe him. So for the rest of his childhood, Robert believed that he was probably just dreaming. And as he got older, it changed from a dream to a ghost. But not once did Robert ever think that he had an alien encounter. That was until he was 19 years old. It was October 1st, 1966, when 19-year-old Robert was preparing for his first hour of duty as a first-class airman. Robert was assigned to the North Truro Air Force Station in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. I think that's how you say it. Truro. It's Truro. On his first day, he arrived by bus to the outer Cape town of North Truro and was dropped off at a bus stop. His final destination, the Air Force Station, was only 2 miles away from the bus stop that he was dropped off at. And across the street from him was this 2-story 19th century home that had been converted into a general store called Dutra's Market. It was almost 9 p.m. and to Robert, it felt like a ghost town. It was out of season, so no tourists were there. There was no one vacationing there. And it was also extremely late at night. Felt like abandoned vibes, you know?
Ooh.
So really, it was just Robert, the bus stop, and some creepy New England looking buildings. Nope. But at the time, he really didn't think much of it. He didn't think it was creepy. He followed the directions that he was given to get to base, and he walked to the nearest payphone and he picked it up. He dialed the Air Force Base to let them know that he was ready for pickup. So that's what he was instructed to do. Dropped off at this bus stop, call us, we'll come get you, because there's no bus stop coming into the base, obviously. And it's a 2-mile walk. You don't have to make that. You got luggage, you got bags.
Yeah.
You know,
even though you're in the military, so maybe you should walk.
Yeah. The pickup was arranged and he hung up the payphone. Waited a few minutes for the truck to arrive and he saw lights coming, but they weren't the headlights of a Jeep or a car. They hung in the sky.
Nope.
And they were getting closer to him. 3 of them. And he described it that they were doing things, these lights were doing things he didn't think were possible, even though he was really early on in his Air Force career. It was day 1.
Right.
But like he had an interest in the sky.
You don't just go into
planes and anybody. I mean, I could look at something in the sky and be like, that's not right.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we live right underneath the main paths for the airports, both in 2 separate locations. We both live underneath them. We know the difference between that's flying a little too low.
Yeah. And so these lights, this trio of lights headed towards him, freaked him the fuck out. So he quickly dug around in his pocket for some change, another dime, and he went back over to the payphone and he called the base back and he let them know that something strange was going on. Like, when are you going to get here?
What's up?
But this call wasn't what he expected on the phone. On the other line, he was asked, "Where were you?" And Robert's like, "What the fuck do you mean? I'm right here. I just called you." And the Air Force guy said, "We sent a truck for you an hour ago and you weren't there." But Robert, to him, he had only been there off the other bus for 5 minutes.
Right.
So what the fuck were they talking about? To him, the time between both calls was only 3 minutes. But to the North Truro Air Force Station, it had been an entire hour. When he arrived at the post, he was pulled aside, questioned by several military men who were in civilian clothes. And he continued to tell the story that I just said, that he got dropped off at the bus station by the market. He made the pickup call. He saw some lights and he called again because he was concerned about the lights. And as soon as he said anything about lights, they began drilling him. What was a strange object in the sky? What did you see? Like, what happened? And he's like, I just saw them and I called you guys. Like, I was there. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Maybe, I saw 3 lights. I thought it was you.
Maybe someone else called you an hour ago, but it wasn't me. I just got there.
Right.
But they believed that he was lying, that he was probably just drunk, and he denied that. He's like, I'm not fucking drunk.
Take me to the hospital right now.
It's my first day on the job.
I've only been here for 2 fucking minutes.
But you know, this is 1966. So they're like,
drunk. You drunk.
Immediately
brother. Drunk.
But he denied that, and he insisted that his story was true. And just like when he was a child, he learned not to speak about it ever again. He eventually went on to serve in Vietnam, and the incident in Cape Cod never really left his mind. About 20 years later, Robert came across a book called Missing Time, and it is written by Budd Hopkins, who's a UFO researcher. Now, Budd pops up in just about every story that we do. So I'm going to give a little bit about him, but all in all, he could be his own case. Budd was raised in Wheeling, West Virginia. Shout out, a couple miles from my hometown. At just 2 years old, he contracted polio. And during this time of his life, he developed this interest in drawing and watercolors and just being a little artsy boy.
Okay.
This led to him obtaining a bachelor's in art history from Oberlin College in Ohio. Even though he's artsy, he is also dubbed the father of the abduction movement. His interest in UFOs and alien visitation started in August 1964, when he and 2 others reported experiencing this daytime sighting of an unidentified flying object, of a UFO. It was this dark, elliptical shaped object, and do you want to guess where it was? Cape Cod in Truro, Massachusetts, 2 years prior to Robert Matthews' incident.
Oh.
He immediately went to, government officials, but he was really dissatisfied with the response that he received when he reported the incident to the nearby Air National Guard base. So immediately he suspected a possible government cover-up.
Yep.
And this led to an obsession. He began reading about UFOs, collecting stories of people who claimed to have experienced contact with alien beings. He joined this now non-functioning UFO research group called NICAP, which stands for the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena. Budd, along with a woman named Elizabeth Slater, also conducted psychological tests of abductees who often compared their experiences to our word, and in turn led Budd to believe that abductions are specifically for the purpose of human reproductive capabilities. This is really where he stands now. He's just trying to prove this point as this UFO researcher that aliens come, they abduct for breeding purposes.
Okay.
That's like his sole belief. Like that's his argument. Like I said, Budd could have his own segment. But for now, all we need to know is that he had a very similar encounter that matches Robert's case at the same location, which makes this whole thing really odd in itself because it's not even how the two met.
Oh, really?
Since his obsession, he has written 6 books, one being Missing Time, a documented study of UFO abductions. This is what caught the attention of Robert, and it was the cover art on the front page. While when we all think of aliens, we think of the same image, and the image on the cover is your classic alien depiction: green, big black eyes, large head, the slim pointed chin. But what caught Robert's attention was the glow around the being. He was certain that that was the being that was in his childhood bedroom.
No.
So he reached out to Budd, and he told him about his childhood experience, and he told him about the missing time that he had in 1966. Now, did the two probably discuss, like, bro, that's where my UFO obsession started, was the same place that you had your missing time? Probably, but it's not documented anywhere. Maybe in his book. I didn't read it. I'd like to. Budd then used hypnosis to fill out Matthew's memory of that night in Cape Cod. And under hypnosis, that missing time was filled in. Here is what he recalled. When Matthew saw the lights, one of them, a red light, started zooming towards him, and it manifested into this ship that landed in a really sandy, like, flat space, which was the parking lot of the Dutra's Market that he was outside of. A ramp then extended out from the ship, and Matthew found himself in what felt like, he said, a doctor's office. He said it was cold, smelled like antiseptic, like just like cleaning products, sterile. And he was surrounded by 6 beings. They looked at his chest, where he had that experience when he was younger. They took samples from his body, and they probed him. After his hypnosis, he was able to return to Cape Cod and explain what happened and where it happened. But the weirdest part about Robert's story was that this took place 2 miles from the Air Force base. And the people that interrogated him were not in uniform. Who walks around on base not in uniform?
Right.
They were in civilian clothes. Many speculate that it was either a test, or maybe he wasn't supposed to remember the lights, or maybe that it was actually men in black that came to the base and convinced him what he saw was nothing.
And not convince him, literally gaslit him.
Gaslight him. You're drunk. He's like, I'm not.
He's like, I literally haven't had a sip today. By the end of it, he's like, maybe I did.
Like, maybe he was like that missing time, like when they do wipe your mind or whatever. Maybe it was supposed to take away the instance where he saw the lights, but it didn't go back far enough.
Right.
And they were like, fuck, dude. But like, also, like, if the military was involved, why did the guy say, bro, we were there an hour ago? You know what I mean? Like, then you're making...
Well, I don't think that it was the doing in the military, because number one, if the military saw anything, okay, first off, it's an Air Force base. So what do they have? Oh, radar.
Right.
Radar. So if there's something 2 miles down the road.
Right, but we don't know what, you know, we don't know the elements they have and like what they can use and how they can.
I mean, we can
go flying underneath radars.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I'm sure they
and
can
plus,
too.
like if these are literally above the road, radar doesn't go
What
there.
makes me sus is that, you know, this whole entire UFO researcher, this big guy that's written all these books that goes towards forward with all these victims and their stories. He had a similar story with the same Air Force base, and he speculated this governmental cover-up because they weren't giving him the attention. And then here's this guy and these civilian clothes or gaslighting. I don't know.
It sounds weird.
Don't know. But a similar story that goes hand in hand with Robert's is that of a woman named Kristina Florence. Kristina's story begins in the Mojave Desert in 1974. She was 17 years old and she was driving with her mother and her sister to San Francisco. But their road trip came to a halt when the car overheated next to a park in Barstow, California. Their mother left the two of them there to go get water for her radiator in her car. Which, hello, what? Like 2 teens alone on a desert on the side of the road with a broken down car? But I guess times were different.
Yeah, times are different. And I guess because they're teenagers, like, they don't want to walk. But, like, I wouldn't make my mom walk by herself.
I wouldn't even think of that. My mom wouldn't let us stay there.
No, my mom
would. Also, I could also imagine me throwing a fit. Like, I'm not fucking walking. Just go. We'll be fine. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I could see both sides. Either way, the two sisters were left at the stranded car in the middle of the desert while mom went to find something for her radiator. At some point, Kristina's sister had gotten out of the car and she started walking around and she walked around the back. Next thing Kristina knows, her sister's yelling, "Oh my God, like come out here quick." The next thing that she remembers consciously was her and her sister lying on a blanket in the park. And then the next thing she remembered after that was that the two girls and their mother were back in the car and they were driving away extremely fast and her mom was very frightened. But they never really spoke about it until a few years later when her sister came across a book, Missing Time, written by Budd Hopkins.
Oh, God.
I feel like Budd is like...
I don't know what Budd is.
It's weird to me that both of these stories, like he didn't seek them out. They just come across this book. Like I feel like his, like it's all, I don't know.
He's like
I don't know what word I want to use.
I don't know, that like attracts people.
He is Men in Black.
Yeah. He literally might be Men in Black, just sitting here to like throw us all off.
So when the sister comes across the book, she calls Kristina. They're like, "You want to reach out to him?" And Kristina's like, "Yeah, sure, we'll reach out to him." So they both decided to, and they reach out to Budd. In 1986, she agreed to go under hypnosis to see if she could remember what happened to her and her sister. Under hypnosis, she claimed that her and her sister looked up when they got out of the car and they saw something. So they got scared, got back in the car, but it still wouldn't start. There was nothing in the radiator. The next thing that she remembered under hypnosis was that she was on a table with weird beings standing around her. She then saw this, what she described as a paper screen. So this paper screen thingy, I don't really know what it was moving around the room and like kept taking pictures of her.
Oh, I bet it was an iPad paper screen. You know, like the holographic ones that you see in movies?
Yeah.
And what year was this again?
70.
Yeah. So that, if I saw that in this paper screen.
You're absolutely fucking right.
Yeah, 100%.
So there was an iPad that was moving around and taking pictures of her. And surrounding her was a round room, and it was filled with all these like dial knobs. She claims that they put some weird rubber pants on her and then they left. After that, she started asking for her sister. Where is she? Where is she okay? And they told her, "Your sister's okay. You'll see her in a bit."
Okay.
That was the last thing that she remembered through hypnosis. The next thing she remembered was that she and her sister were back on the ground. Her hypnosis has been studied by a psychologist named Susan Fox, who is like 1000% certain that Kristina's story is legitimate and it is completely true.
Wow.
She was like, she shows no signs of making this up, like whatsoever.
Right.
And like, I kind of agree with her because like there's not much detail. Like I feel like under hypnosis, a lot of people that experience encounters, like they come up with like so much detail.
They try to give so many detail
that it like seems fake. And she's like, they put pants on me. That's all I remember.
Right.
And you know what I mean?
Like I'm just having flashes.
Like, yeah. With these two cases, Roberts has coined missing time as comparable to, not Robert, Budd has coined missing time as comparable to psychogenic amnesia or dissociative amnesia, which is a memory disorder from sudden episodic memory loss. And it can occur for a period of time ranging from hours to years to decades. So it's safe to assume that extraterrestrials take away our memories, resulting in missing time, resulting in dissociative amnesia. Fuck that. That's
Fuck
what you
that.
have. Because of course they're trying to keep their little like abductions under wraps, you know. Or some believe that it's in like Earth, quotes, Earth, or think of it like as a world government mandate that they have to wipe us to keep the population sane. Because when you really think about it, if you're being abducted, probed, prodded, possibly impregnated, sexually assaulted, raped,
If you're having your eggs taken from your
aka
body,
if you're producing hybrid babies without your consent,
or if they're acting like you're
we
an
would
egg donor,
absolutely be fighting back 100%.
Right.
So it may be some sort of contractual agreement between the Earth and whoever.
like just don't let them know.
Don't let them know.
You can take all the women and do
Wipe
whatever.
the minds.
Just wipe their mind.
And all those people that they failed, that's when Men in Black comes in.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's the end of the missing time phenomena.
I don't know. Like, because of the conversations that we had with the Fermi paradox, I am
too, and that's why I'm
like, so fucked.
I can't even convince myself anymore.
No,
I'm
I
like,
know.
fuck.
The Fermi paradox was too fucking good.
I know.
Honestly, it was too
I
fucking good.
needed to just at least discuss some aliens so I can kind of get like back
We
in
can
my
get back there,
groove.
yeah.
But it's gonna take something
Massive. Like it's going to take something just as scientifically understand.
as Enrico Fermi.
Yeah. And
I
that's
need
that.
Enrico Fermi to produce something new that will change my mind.
Yeah. Isn't he dead?
Yeah. Oh, fuck. Yeah, I died at 52.
Oh my God.
Remember?
Yeah. He had that stomach cancer.
Stomach cancer.
Damn. Well, okay. Here's my situation on it. I truly do believe when some people, especially like the two cases that you've given up, that didn't realize that they were abducted, and then they were like, "Holy fuck, that."
And it's so weird to me that they came across the same fucking book. And it's especially weird to me that Robert comes across this guy's book who has the same fucking story as him that led him to write the book.
Right. And it's like
that's, what is the word I'm looking for whenever like
it's
worlds
serendipitous.
collide and like things are placed in someone's life for them to see it for a sole purpose of like down the line of like the timeline.
serendipity.
Is that what it is?
Serendipitous. Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird.
It's like serendipitous is like the spiritual version of ironic. Like nothing's actually ironic. It's serendipitous.
Okay.
If I'm right, but my favorite movie of all time is Serendipity, and that is literally what the movie is. So in my opinion,
that is what
I
it is.
believe that's correct.
I've never seen Serendipity, so I guess I have to watch that.
You've never seen it? I have not forced you to watch it. I forced you to watch A Walk in the Clouds. Yes, I bought it on Vudu and we watched it.
Oh, okay.
At You Walk.
Okay, if something was on Vudu, then I definitely watched it.
Serendipity was on Netflix. I feel like I forced you to watch it with me before.
I don't remember.
With the glove. They're chasing around this glove the whole time. And in the book, and he looks for that book every single time. She says, I'll write my name and my number in this book. And whenever you find it, that'll be the right time, because she was engaged. And it's 20 fucking years before he finds this fucking book. But when he finds it, her number was changed. But
it's not a TV series.
No, it's a movie. It's one of the best movies of all fucking time.
Serendipity TV series inspired by movie is in the works on NBC. That's
NBC, don't fuck it up, please. I'm begging you.
Please give it to HBO right now.
Oh my God, give it to anybody but you, NBC. Like, you let This Is Us fall off the fucking train like so fast. Like, it was so good in the beginning. Like, don't fuck this up, please. Oh my God, that's like if someone was like, we're gonna make a TV show called Practical Magic. I'd be like, I'm gonna slit your throat.
Yeah.
No, the fuck you're not. Anyways. Serendipitous. Yeah, it is. It's weird. And plus, with this being 70s, it's not like you go and Google it. Like,
right, exactly.
You can't just Google who got abducted in Cape Cod.
Right.
You know?
It is weird. It's sus. And I also, going back to Robert's story real quickly, I also think that if you do have experiences as a child, it's almost like a marking.
Right.
And they will come back at some point in your life. And that's why the chest thing when he's a child and whenever he went under hypnosis, because he spoke about the chest thing. Yeah. And maybe it was just a trauma related ordeal whenever he went under hypnosis, but he had the same encounter again under.
Well, I fully believe that when you're marked, like they come back for you as a that
like a
London
study?
Person that we talked about
Yeah.
years and years and years. I mean, God, what the fuck? When was that? She lived like in a direct line.
I need one of those cases.
Oh my God, she was. That was a crazy one. Remember, like her bedroom.
Was it whenever she was like the one that had been abducted like 70 times?
Yeah, like 70 times. And there's that whole group of people in London, or not London. It's in England, like whatever. But yeah, that was
my
that
favorite.
case. I think
my
about
favorite all time alien story is the Venetian love story.
I think my favorite one's got to be Terry.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
That was a good one.
Okay.
But I also forgot all about that one. But when I remember that one when you covered the woman.
Was it like Virginia Hall or something?
Something like that.
Virginia.
No, that was another thing we did.
That was the Virginia UFOs.
Yeah.
That was in like Brazil or something.
Yeah, that one was a good one too. That one was fucking good. No, whichever one that you covered that we were just talking about, the one from where they had the group and they all lived in a direct line from Stonehenge.
Yeah.
That case was so good because it sounded like a fucking creepy account.
Yeah.
The way that it was. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Whatever the fuck that episode is, guys, go listen to
know.
it and let us know so I can go re-listen to it.
Yeah, let us know so I can look at my notes and read it.
I wouldn't even be able to tell you what vicinity that one was in. I mean, it has to be early to
I'm thinking spring of season 1 or spring of season 2.
I can't even remember where we were sitting when
I think
we
it was
recorded
last year, last spring.
I don't remember. I think I had long hair.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
So
not last spring.
So then it'd been 2021.
Yeah.
That's when I cut my hair.
Damn, that was crazy time.
Yeah.
All right.
Really crazy.
It's
my turn. Don't get too excited. Everybody just.
I'm dreading.
Yeah. Okay. So this case that I have for you was recommended by one of our listeners, Liv. She sent in this with a creepy account, which I'm going to read the first blurb for you guys at the beginning, and then we're going to come back to it at the end.
Oh, okay.
So the first half of it is, hi, Morgan and Taylar. My name is Liv, and I love your podcast. I was listening to Morgan's two-parter about the Miami Aerospace Academy, and it got me thinking about my own school. I live in Melbourne, Australia, and she got onto us for pronouncing Melbourne wrong.
How do we say it?
Melbourne, but that's just like the way that we talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
because it looks like born.
Yeah, Melbourne, but like
I think I say Melbourne. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I say Melbourne.
That's right.
I've thought about it for too fucking long. So moving on. I attended an all-girls private school for 13 years, prep through year 12, called Presbyterian Ladies College. It is a prestigious school in the city that has many private schools. My school has some dark stories, some spooky ones, but also true crime. The most famous of which is Carmen Chan. She was 13 years old from PLC. She was like a student at PLC, who disappeared in the 1990s from her home. A man with a ski mask forced his way into the home and put Carmen's two little sisters in a wardrobe. The media dubbed the attacker Mr. Cruel, and it's an extremely famous case in Australia. So that's the case I'm going to be covering for you guys today. Now, when she sent this in, it reminded me that probably 2 years ago I had started this case and very quickly said fuck that.
Yeah, a quick Google search will tell you why.
Right. And so with that being said, I need to give you a massive trigger warning for this case, as it involves children, specifically young girls, being molested, abducted, held captive, raped, sexually assaulted, and there's going to be crime details. I tried my best to like take out the things that were not necessary because number one, a child's involved.
Right.
All right. On the night of April 13th, 1991, in Templestowe, Victoria, which is a suburb of Melbourne, Australia, 13-year-old Carmen Chan was babysitting her two younger sisters at home while her parents worked at the restaurant that the family owned nearby. And this is something that she did often for her parents. This wasn't like an unusual thing. The sisters were watching TV when at approximately 8:40 p.m., Carmen and one of her little sisters went to the kitchen to make a snack. As they were making their way to the kitchen, they were stopped by a man in the hallway of their home. He was wearing a ski mask to cover his face, wearing a green or grayish-like tracksuit, and carrying a knife. The girls tried to flee before the intruder grabbed them in the hallway of the home and said, "I only want your money," before forcing the three sisters into Carmen's bedroom, demanding that the two youngest sisters go into the wardrobe, saying that Carmen would be just only showing him where the money is. Once both girls were inside, he pushed the bed in front of the doors of the wardrobe to trap them inside. After securing the door, he forced Carmen to flee the home with him. Minutes later, the sisters were able to actually push this door open, like shoving the bed, and run to the phone where they called their parents at the family restaurant, who then called the police and rushed home. Phyllis and John Chan worked with police, doing exactly as they instructed in hopes that Carmen would be released. At the home, the family had parked their red Toyota sedan in the front yard, so they didn't drive this to the restaurant to go work. It was like sitting out there as this happened. It had very clearly been vandalized with graffiti. The paint was still very fresh when investigators arrived at the scene, meaning it was the doing of Carmen's abductor. There were various phrases written all over the car, and I'm going to be quoting them to you. They are not in any way okay. First is payback, then more to come, and then Asian drug deal.
Jesus Christ.
This led investigators to believe that the motive behind Carmen's abduction was to target her parents. However, the Chans could not think of any reason as to why someone would want to target them or their family. Both John and Phyllis had no criminal record, no reports ever made about them. Their record was completely clean. They were extremely well respected in their community, and this just made no sense. It quickly became apparent that this graffiti and the phrases written were likely just a red herring, a way to throw off the investigators. Unfortunately, though, this was the only real lead that they had. In an attempt to gain more traction in the investigation, generate more leads, and hopefully find witnesses that saw or heard something, police conducted a large-scale manhunt on the streets, going door to door in hopes of collecting just something. On the third day after Carmen's abduction, her parents went on a press conference. And oh my God, it is probably I can't even talk about it. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to watch. And I'm not going to play a clip or anything. If you guys want to go hear it, just be warned. It is raw pain from a mother who just wants her daughter back. And it's very painful and hard to watch. The entire city was in absolute shock and fearing for themselves and their own children, begging the police to find Carmen and her abductor so parents could sleep at night again. Whoever this man was, he was skilled. It was clear that he had likely watched and examined the Chan home for some time prior to abducting her. This was a calculated attack. There was no way that this was his first time, and police knew who exactly this was Mr. Cruel. Given the name by the media, Mr. Cruel was an offender that was behind several kidnappings and sexual assaults of young girls in Melbourne suburbs since the late 80s. In fact, just the day before Carmen's abduction, the Victoria Police had began the process of downsizing Operation Challenge. This was a task force that was established to investigate and respond to any and all Mr. Cruel crimes or those that were believed to be related. Some call it Operation Challenge. Some reports also say Operation Spectrum. So there's going to be I'll switch back and forth saying them.
Okay.
They might be two different operations, but I could be wrong. So I'm going to walk you guys through the crimes prior to this. So just a trigger warning before we get into it. At 4 a.m. in the early morning hours of August 22nd, 1987, in the northeastern suburb of Melbourne called Lower Plenty, a man wearing a ski mask broke into the home belonging to a family of 4. He first woke the parents, threatening them with a knife and a handgun to lay flat on their stomachs, binding their feet and their hands and locking them in their wardrobe. Next, the man went into their son's bedroom and proceeded to tie the boy to the bed. Lastly, he made his way to their 11-year-old daughter's room. And trigger warning. He proceeded to rape her for 2 hours, but stopped at some point just to make a quick call from the family's phone, and then he cut the phone lines, which became a staple of his, like BTK. He then grabbed the family's box of records and a blue jacket before fleeing the home. Once the family was able to free themselves and run to get help, police rushed to the scene. While searching the area, they learned that the man had entered the home by detaching a pane from their living room window. The knots that were used to tie the family were very specific types of knots, often used by sailors or someone with some level of nautical experience. Once the 11-year-old daughter was able to speak with police after being taken care of, she told them about what she heard the man saying while on the phone call. She said that it was not just any call. The man was threatening whoever was on the other line, referring to this person as Bozo. The man was demanding that the person on the other end, quote, move their children or they would be next, end quote. Investigators immediately pulled the phone records only to find that there was no record of this call at all, meaning that the man did this just to scare the girl even more and plant a red herring to distract police or throw them off of his tracks, which worked, and again, became a staple of his. It would be over a year before Mr. Cruel struck again. At 5:20 a.m. on December 27th, 1988, in the eastern suburb of Melbourne called Ringwood, that same man, wearing that same ski mask and armed with a gun and a knife, broke into a family's home through their back door. This was the home of a man named John Willis. Also in the home with him were his wife and their 4 daughters, all asleep.
Oh my God.
Wearing dark blue overalls and the ski mask, the man woke John Willis by holding a gun to his head and using a knife in the other hand to give directions.
This is horrible.
Yeah. The man forced John and his wife to roll onto their stomachs before binding and gagging them. He told John that he was only there for money, but then proceeded to cut the phone lines and begin walking around the home. He made his way to the room where all 4 girls were sleeping and by name instructed that their 10-year-old Sharon get up. He blindfolded her with tape and gagged her using a ball gag. Once she was secured, he picked up a few changes of clothes for her and forced her to flee the home with him. After working as hard as he could to free himself, John began frantically searching for Sharon, realizing that she had been taken and that the phone lines had been cut. John rushed to his neighbor's home and called the police. A search for 10-year-old Sharon Willis was initiated. 18 hours later, just after midnight on now December 28th, a woman found Sharon standing on a corner of a street wearing a green garbage bag. She was found alive after being released nearby Bayswater High School. Sharon told police that she never saw the man's face, but was able to give a detailed account of what happened. She told investigators that the man thoroughly bathed her before releasing her. He brushed and flossed her teeth and even clipped her toes and fingernails. AKA, he was making sure that no forensic evidence would be left behind.
What the
1988.
Calculated.
Sharon also reported that she saw a wooden tripod at the foot of his bed with a video camera. And the entire time she was there, he kept the radio on very loud. Mr. Cruel was smart, and he laid low after all of his crimes. He was methodical, not impulsive, very calculated. After another 1.5 year break, he would strike again though. On the night of July 3rd, 1990, in the eastern suburb of Melbourne called Canterbury, the same man carrying the same weapons and wearing the same mask broke into the Linus family home. They were a very wealthy English family that had been renting this home in a well-off neighborhood. And this neighborhood was home to a lot of, if not most, of Australia's public officials and politicians.
Okay.
AKA, this neighborhood was constantly under surveillance and considered extremely safe and secure. That night, the parents, Brian and Rosemary Linus, were at a send-off party for a friend that was moving and had left their 2 daughters at home alone, 15-year-old Fiona and 13-year-old Nicola. At approximately 11:30 p.m., the girls were forced awake by the masked man, commanding them to do as he said, and also going on these little rants, threatening them with his weapons. He told Nicola to go to the other room and find her school uniform. Also, I'm pretty positive 1 or 2 of these girls, if not all, were students at the same school that Liv was telling us about. Presbyterian. I know for sure these girls were. So he tells Nicola to go find her school uniform, and then he tied Fiona to her bed. While Nicola was still searching for her uniform, Mr. Cruel told Fiona that her father would have to pay him $25,000 in order to have Nicola returned. Before fleeing the home with the 13-year-old Nicola in the family's rental car that was parked in the driveway of the home, he drove only a half mile down the street before he loaded into a second vehicle. So that's where his car was parked. So he walked 1.5 miles or a half mile there. And at midnight, so just minutes after he left, Rosemary and Brian returned from their party to find Fiona tied up and Nicola missing with a ransom message left behind. It would be 50 hours before Nicola would ever be released. She was dropped blindfolded, fully dressed, but wrapped in a blanket at a power plant or electricity station, just a short distance from her home in a suburb called Kew or coup. And once Nicola was confident that Mr. Cruel was gone and like drove off, she took off her blindfold and just sprinted to the closest home. Just after 2 a.m., she called her family from this home and police. What she went through in those 50 hours, though, horrific. So trigger warning.
I don't even want to hear it.
She was forced to lay down on her abductor's bed and place her neck into a brace that was attached to the rails and was molested for those 50 hours. But she was also able to give very key information, probably the most detailed information that investigators would ever get about Mr. Cruel. Nicola told investigators that she believed her attacker was approximately 5'8" and had red tinted brown hair. She also reported hearing him speaking with another person, possibly on a phone call, but she like never heard anyone respond, so that's why she thought it was a phone call. But then she started to wonder if he had another person held captive with her. Nicola told investigators that while she was at the man's home, she heard low flying planes, as if she was near an airport, leading investigators to believe that she was nearby the Tula Marine Airport, or close to its main flying courses for takeoffs and landings. This refreshed Sharon Willis's memory as well, and she reported that yes, she heard the same thing with the planes, like how it was so loud, it was insane. And just like Sharon, Nicola was also bathed, her nails were clipped, and her teeth were thoroughly cleaned. When Nicola asked Mr. Cruel why he was doing this, according to whoismrcruel.com, he said, quote, "You will be taken to a hospital and they will test you. You will then be examined by a police surgeon. They will be looking for evidence that will link you to me, but they won't find any." End quote.
Wow.
Okay, so just for right now, we're going to take a pause on discussing like details of these crimes, even though those are the 3 crimes that are for sure Mr. Cruel crimes. We're not going to really be discussing any more other than going into a deeper dive of Carmen's family's experience. So right now I want to compile everything that was known about Mr. Cruel at the time of Carmen's abduction. And
which all 3 of those took place prior.
Okay. 87, 88, and
last.
90. And then Carmen was abducted in 91. So this is everything that we knew prior to Carmen's abduction. And I'm going to be adding like other details that I haven't hit on yet. A lot of this that I'm about to walk you through is from MrCruel.com, as it is the most detailed and best compiled location for all of this information. So they're my main source for this section. This is what is known in the profile that was created by the police. Mr. Cruel is a highly intelligent man. He is meticulous and plans out each of his crimes, conducting intense research and surveillance on the family's home prior to attacking them. He was careful to always be aware and not leave any physical evidence, but also no forensic evidence as well. He at all costs protected his face and identity and would leave red herrings behind in order to confuse his victims, their families, and investigators. From what the victims have reported, he was always very calm, cool, and collected, never in a rush, spoke softly even when he was being like demanding, and even when going on rants and stuff. In fact, during one attack, he actually stopped, and I'm not sure exactly which one, but he stopped and ate something in a home in the middle.
Like had a meal?
Yeah, like made a sandwich. He would often threaten to use his weapons, but he never had prior. They were always just there for the threat. As for his description, he is a white Australian man in his mid to late 20s or early 30s. He has reddish brown hair and is approximately 5'8" with a lean, small to medium build with like a bloated tummy or a beer belly. His eyebrows were bushy with gray and white peppered into it, which is also apparent in his hair. He has an oval face. He has one hand that is soft and one hand that is rough. Both are very, very hairy. He has fine hairs on his arms, legs, and chest, but not on his back. He used his right hand as his dominant hand. All of his clothes and shoes that he wore were all in great condition. They were not like ratty or with holes on them or dirty. So now let's walk through what the reports and the accounts of the encounters with Mr. Cruel taught us about him. First, he had detailed forensic knowledge and understood DNA even in the late 80s when it was still relatively new and just being introduced. Like not many people even trusted that DNA was actually a thing at this point.
Right.
So that's really odd. Second, he likely lived or had access to a property or home underneath one of the flight paths for that airport. Kind of like at first glance reading or seeing that, you're kind of thinking like, well, what do you mean? Planes come from fucking everywhere. No. When planes are coming into an airport, they're either coming in north to south, south to north, east to west, west to east. So there's only 4 directions that you can come in or leave at an airport, and they only have takeoff paths for those directions. Investigators examined all flights coming in and out during the time that both girls had been held in that home, but specifically Nicola and her estimated times of when she would hear these planes. They found that the home either sits underneath the east to west or north to south flight paths. Based on how loud the girls recalled these planes being, it is determined that the planes were likely just 400 meters above the home. This area that possibly would hear it this close or these times encompasses 15 suburbs, which is over 30,000 homes.
Oh my God.
And police searched every single fucking one of them.
Good for them.
Yeah.
Good for them.
Isn't that the most efficient shit you've ever heard?
Yeah.
30,000 homes? Okay.
All right, open your doors.
Fucking line up, everybody. Wow. Unfortunately, they did not find anything, but we're going to come back to this. Third, he followed the media reports on his crimes through TV, paper, and radio. We know for sure that he watched the Linus family press conference that was held just hours after Nicola's abduction because he spoke to her about it and said, "So you think you're worth $25K?
Wow.
What?" During both Sharon and Nicola's captivity, he brought home the Sun paper, the Herald Sun, I think is what it is, and discussed how they were connecting him to other abductions and crimes that he either did or had not done.
It's disgusting.
I know. And in the process of all 3 of his known crimes, he was listening to the radio during and after. Fourth, he likely was videoing each of his captives at the home, meaning he enjoyed reliving these crimes, and that is what likely allowed him to wait so long in between each of them. Fifth, he owned a gun, and I don't know exactly what the gun laws are in Australia, but I know that they're fucking tight. So the fact that he owned a gun, I guess, is like a big, not a big deal, but like a identifying marker.
Well, especially in Australia.
Right, because if we were like, he had a gun, we'd be
We're like, okay, that's
okay.
the whole population.
Right, okay, where do we even start? Everyone has a fucking gun.
Yeah.
And his first victim described it to be a small black handgun that was pistol style. The second said that it was a dark handgun with a square grip and barrel with a silver bit, probably a pistol. And the third said that the handgun had a silver barrel with a brown wooden handle. So maybe he has multiple guns. Or this could be the same one and they just all saw it in different light. 6, his car was a 4-door vehicle with carpeted floors, bucket seats, and a floor gear shift. It was clean but very old, and it would take him a few attempts to start it. The night that Nicola was released, a white Commodore Vacationer sedan with 3 blue stripes on the side was reported by witnesses for being suspicious in the area that she was dropped off. 7th, he took trophies from each of his victims that were oddly distinctive. And I'm going to go through the list. A Melbourne Football Club beanie, a Ken Dunn beach bag, a school uniform, tracksuit pants, and jumper from private school that we were talking about. Sorry, I can't think of what the letters are for some reason. Rosemary Lina's driver's license, credit card, and Medicare card. A gold diamond engagement ring with the numbers 4132 on the inside. An Ecuadorian shirt company parka with a fake black fur collar. And a classic cold record set by London Philharmonic Orchestra. And lastly, I'm going to tie numbers 8, 9, and 10 all together, which are his lifestyle, his language, and his skills. When the Linus family was attacked and Nicola was abducted, she reported that the next morning her abductor had slept in until 10 a.m., which was a Wednesday morning, meaning that he had a career or a lifestyle that allowed some sort of freedom, would allow him to sleep in, conduct surveillances on his victims for a long period of time prior to attacking. Another interesting correlation is that Sharon, Nicola, and Carmen's abductions all either took place on or during or leading up to, I guess is a better way to put it, school holidays.
Oh.
With that, he also used a very weird vocabulary, saying words and phrases such as worrywart, use, missy, bozo, and he asked John Willis, "You're not going to try and be a hero, are you?" And then he asked one of his first victims, "Do you feel brave right now?" Then we already know the question about Nicola's worth. Do you think that you're worth $25,000? It's weird.
It is fucking weird.
As for his skills, we know that he may have a criminal history because of his obvious tactics and knowledge about crimes. The kidnappings and making himself known to others in the home was likely a result of an escalation. So maybe he started with peeping and then breaking and entering, or doing businesses before doing residential homes. Kind of like BTK.
I feel like he's living this like villain, like comic book lifestyle of like other notorious
like
serial killers wrapped into one.
Like quoting comic books almost. It's really fucking bozo. And so, I mean, I get it was 80s, but like, I don't know what the slang and like common things to say over in Australia at that point in time, but like, I don't know. Really weird.
That is so weird.
He probably studied and still studies other serial attackers, killers, rapists, molesters, so on and so forth, to educate himself.
Did you just say still studies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Other serial attackers, to educate himself on tactics and implement the red herrings. Like maybe that's what taught him to implement these red herrings is what I'm trying to say. But like, how does he have this much time?
Right.
To study all of this, to sleep in until 10 on a Wednesday morning, to go case these homes. We know that when Dennis Lynn Rader was doing this, it was because he didn't have a job at that point in time.
See, I'm getting substitute teacher vibes.
That's so crazy that he said that. Based off of the knots that were found at the scene, he likely had a history as a sailor, a truck driver, a fisherman, or a farmer, all of which would align with his ability to have freedom of his time and to scout. However, when we partner his lifestyle, his vocabulary, plus his careful nature with protecting his identity and the times that he did make his attacks happen,
and being so personable with names,
and the weird talking like you talk to kids, it may not be too far-fetched to believe that he was a teacher or worked at a school in some capacity. Now that we are all on the same page about what police know about this attacker, let's pick it up where we left off on Carmen's investigation. At this point, they are trying to generate leads while also trying to create some sort of a communication line between themselves and Mr. Cruel using the media through everything that they knew from his prior crimes. But no contact was ever made. This was the longest anyone had been held captive by Mr. Cruel in any crime that he had ever committed. Not long after their press conference, the Chans posted an encrypted letter in the Sun using a cipher that only their daughter would know. And in that cipher, they tell her to let him know that they will give him $300,000 in exchange for her safe return.
Wow.
But again, nothing. Unfortunately, Carmen, unlike Sharon and Nicola, would never be reunited with her parents or her sisters. Almost exactly 1 year after her abduction, just 4 days before the 1 year mark, on April 9th, 1992, a man was walking his dog in nearby Thomastown when he came across a fully decomposed skeletal remains belonging to a young person, and it was later identified to be 13-year-old Carmen Chan. An autopsy revealed that her body had probably been in this location for almost a year at the time that it was discovered. Carmen had been shot 3 times with a .22 caliber execution style in the back of the head. Though this was not Mr. Cruel's MO, killing his victims, Phyllis, Carmen's mother, believed that her daughter's stubborn and fighting nature likely resulted in her death. As in, she either fought too hard or learned too much about him to be released. And like, I know that's so sad that you're like, I lost my daughter, but you've got to be so proud.
Right.
You've got to be so proud. Like, she fought so hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I agree with the statement that she probably knew too much.
Yeah.
She saw his face. She recognized him. She couldn't go home.
She knew something. Because why else would he escalate?
Right.
After all of these other ones, like in $300,000.
Right.
Unfortunately, to this day, the cases of Mr. Cruel remain unsolved, as the identity of Mr. Cruel has never been determined. Over the years, there have been hundreds of persons of interest and 10 to 12 solid suspects.
Wait, sorry to backtrack again, but the execution style, it was like he couldn't look at her face and do it.
Yeah. Like he knew her.
Well, and like, because it's not his MO. Like,
and she went to that private, and it's not his MO.
He couldn't look, like he does not take care of them.
But I get what you're saying. Like, tries to like, in his own fucked up way.
Spades. I know that that's also to protect his own ass, but like he is very No.
No.
I don't even like saying
it's
that.
so hard. I get what you're saying, though.
But, like, he's soft-spoken. Like,
Yeah.
it's just...
I'm not going to scare you, but, like, I do just for, like, a little bit of fun. But then I, like, back it up. And I'm like, you're good. Like, I'll take you home.
Right. And then for him to do it execution style, he couldn't look at her and do
Right.
it. Like,
right.
he couldn't look at her face.
But, like, 3 is excessive. For you, I mean, again, maybe he's, like, thinking, I've never shot anyone like this. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know either. It's fucking fucked up. Disgusting.
So, like I said, this is unsolved. We do not know the identity. There have been hundreds of persons of interest, but I want to focus in on the main potential identities of Mr. Cruel, starting with the discovery of the Sierra files in 2016. For the 25-year anniversary of Carmen's abduction and murder, journalist Keith Moore was doing research when he discovered the Sierra files. This is a collection of documents from the Victoria Police detailing the top 7 suspects that could not be eliminated from the Mr. Cruel operation, either Spectrum or Challenge, which came to a close in 1994. However, Moore only revealed the identity of one suspect, who admitted to Moore that he was the primary suspect in the Mr. Cruel investigation. His name is Dr. Brian Allen Elkner. Elkner moved to Hampton with his young family in 1972 to teach French literature at the University of Melbourne. Between April of 1972 and May of 1974, he attacked 6 girls in their home. 5 young teenagers and 1 young married woman, all of which who were threatened with a knife. They were all bound and they were all assaulted. He was arrested and placed in prison in 1974 for 1 count of rape, 3 counts of indecent assault, 1 count of assault with attempted rape, and 1 count of assault, for which he was sentenced to 10 years, but was released in 1979, so 5 years later. After which he moved back to Hampton, where in 1985, 2 women were attacked that is believed to be the earliest crimes connected to Mr. Cruel. And oddly enough, that same year, after these attacks, Elkner moved to Thornbury, another suburb. All throughout the 80s, following his release, Elkner wrote freelance and trained for several marathons. So he was constantly running the streets. He was at home writing his book by himself. And when investigators went to search his home, when those 30,000 homes were searched, guess what they found hidden in the roof of his home? A fucking ski mask and a knife.
Oh my God.
He was interrogated for 12 hours, but he had an alibi for one of the crimes that was proven to be true via like multiple other witnesses and photos. Despite the lack of evidence that would serve as enough cause to have him arrested and convicted, investigators believe that he was Mr. Cruel. They just never had enough to prove it.
Did he have children of his own? You said
he had
young
family, but I think they like left him when he got arrested the first time. Through Keith Moore's research, the journalist that we were just talking about, he learned that another one of the suspects was also a senior private school teacher, but he's never named, whose personality and lifestyle also aligned very closely with Mr. Cruel. But then, in either 2019 or 2020, Ron Idles, who was a retired homicide detective, went on an Australian true crime podcast. I'm not exactly sure which one it was. Like, I tried to go and look and see if it was like Case File or one that I would know well, but there was like 50 other ones that he's been interviewed on since, so it was completely swiped. Yeah. But either way, when he was on this podcast, he revealed some things that have never been talked about publicly. During this interview, he discussed who he believes is Mr. Cruel, saying that a, quote, well-known crook who was dying of cancer in 2003 told him the true identity of Mr. Cruel. So this person was an informant, adding that he, in fact, this person that they believe is Mr. Cruel, that this informant pointed the finger at, lived under one of the flight paths in Eltham with the same home layout that was described by both Sharon and Nicola. More specifically, this person was a very successful businessman who loved eating at the Chan's family restaurant, and he was now dead. So naturally, once the Herald Sun journalist Andrew Rule got a hold of this shit, he went on a deep dive. On April 31st, 2022, Rule released that he had made contact with that informant who had been dying of cancer in 2003 and pointed the finger at who he believes is Mr. Cruel, who Ron was talking about. And he learned the identity of this unspoken person that is one of the suspects as Mr. Cruel.
That ate at the restaurant.
Right. His name is Norman or Normie Lee, a notorious armed robber who was shot and killed by police during a robbery gone wrong at the Melbourne airport in July of 1992, just after Carmen's body was discovered. According to Andrew Rule in his writings, Lee had confessed to murdering Carmen to his good friend, which was the informant, and showed his friend a collection of things that he had. They were all Mr. Cruel trophies, all the lists that I went through. But he had a second collection, which was of young schoolgirls' clothes, like uniforms that he had stolen from sneaking into people's homes.
That makes me so sick.
Now, that home that he lived in, that was in that flight path, it had a garage attached that he had converted into a separate extension, like a bedroom, multiple bedrooms. And police didn't go into that one. It was an attached garage. I meant to say detached garage. Or maybe he flipped it back before they came. I'm not really positive. Other things supporting this theory is that Lee was notorious for wearing, just like Mr. Cruel, face mask during his crimes. And I'm talking like a variety of face masks. Just an example is that in addition to a ski mask, he would also wear Michael Jackson masks.
What?
Yeah, there's a picture of this dude like in a Michael Jackson mask with a gun and like a bag of money walking out of a robbery. There's like many more than that, but the Michael Jackson one's like...
It's something straight off Money Heist on Netflix.
Really? But
I just feel like big bad burglar robber isn't really the guy that we've been discussing this
I don't feel
entire
like
time.
it is either. I feel like I'm more inclined to feel like the
maybe,
doctor.
Maybe Carmen, maybe Carmen's killer. But maybe not Mr. Cruel.
I don't know, man. I don't know. And I don't know how many times that he had like killed prior. If he had not used the weapons prior in any of his robberies and stuff, it could also be just like a different version of the escalation going from I'm going to steal things to I'm going to go steal people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you're right. That's how I felt about it too. But he is also known for saying weird phrases, just like was reported by Mr. Cruel. So maybe his cover was being that type of robber.
Mm-hmm. And he is a big red herring guy.
Right.
Is that how you say that?
Red herring, yep. Okay, we're almost done. As I said, this case remains unsolved and is considered cold at this point.
That hurts me,
yeah,
actually. But like, you look at cases like that and you see that the local police and
they did everything.
Everything.
I mean, I'm sure looking back, they're thinking like, I could have done this. Like from someone on the outside of this country looking in, that is
especially at that time
great. I mean, that response, you couldn't ask for more.
I agree.
Even though it wasn't successful. I mean, you did what you could. Before we continue, I just want to note that, as I have said in the past, Australian cases are very hard to research here.
Yeah.
For no reason. I don't understand it. So with that being said, there's likely a lot of things that I missed or things that people in Australia are going to be like, bro, you missed this big piece. I'm really sorry if that was the case. I really tried my hardest to collect good facts and the most detail that I could.
The odds of us getting into an Australian news report, you can't.
You can't.
I mean, you can't.
Luckily, now that we have a lot more of you guys in Australia, I can have you screenshot it and fucking send it to me. But like, that's like the point we're getting at.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's really crazy. But like I said, I did my best to collect facts, the theories, everything that I could. Reddit was my best friend. The very last thing that I have for you guys before we finish is the rest of Liv's creepy account. But I want to dip into one more thing before we go there. And it's something that's rather controversial when it comes to this case, but necessary for the final discussions that we will likely have. And this is the FBI profile that was created on Mr. Cruel, April 24th, 1991. So just a few days after Carmen was abducted, which was heavily criticized by forensic psychologist Ian Joblin and other local officials.
Why do I know that name?
I feel like we've talked about him prior.
We have.
In another case. What their biggest gripe with it is they were like, the FBI is being too simple. This is potentially off target. But granted, when they said this, we know a lot more now. You know what I mean? So maybe this FBI profile is more on track than, and they were just a little too close to it. I'm not like, I'm not sitting over here being like.
This is like the U.S. stepping in and giving a profile.
Well,
correct?
they like called and were like, hey,
we need help.
We need help. And we had, new mind hunters. If you've never seen it, that's what was going on. And people were calling out to us because we were the only people that kind of had it in terms of just like regular cases. Mm-hmm. Right. So either way, I'm just going to read it to you guys. On April 24th, 1991, the FBI provided the following profile to Mr. Cruel of Mr. Cruel to the Victoria Police based on their research and investigative experience in similar cases prior to Mr. Cruel. He may reside or work in proximity to his first and last known attacks, so Lower Plenty, Templestowe. He is likely to be employed or involved with a school due to the use of school uniforms and timing in relevance to school holidays. He will appear genuinely dedicated to his students, and this may have been recognized with a reward or with an award or a grant at some point, which seemed to have made him above suspicion. So like he's so well loved in the community that no one would ever fucking think that he did this. He will have kept homemade pornography, including his victims. He is a functional individual with steady employment, is generally regarded as a good neighbor, polite, quiet, somewhat introverted likely, and may be involved in his community projects.
BTK.
If he has a partner, they will have been away during the times of his attacks and will know of his sexual dysfunctions, use of pornography, and schoolgirl uniform obsessions. Those around him may have noticed changes in his behavior during and after each of the attacks, including uncharacteristic use of alcohol, interest in religion, missing work, or appearing distant/preoccupied. To this day, there is a $1 million reward for any information that will lead to the arrest and conviction of Mr. Cruel. But that's all we know.
What really caught my attention in that was that if he was in a relationship, if he was married, if he had a significant other, he would only have done it on their schedule. Mm-hmm. Well, if he did it on school holidays, what kind of job would a female have that would get them out of the house on holiday?
You're right.
Unless that partner
had a family out of town and went to go
that's
visit.
That's what I was thinking. When do I leave town for holidays?
Yeah, only
when
on holidays.
I have family.
Yeah, family things.
And maybe his family was there and they weren't serious. Maybe they weren't married.
Or maybe he was like, I can't make it. I mean, again, guys, this is 4 attacks.
Her family hated him. He was not welcome.
That, or he's like, oh, I have to work. I have to do something that day.
Like, that's the only time someone would leave town for school holidays.
Right. And we have just after Christmas. Now, people do leave after Christmas to go on New Year's Eve trips, so on and so forth. And then we have April, so that's around Easter. Mm-hmm. So maybe he doesn't practice religious Christian holidays.
And I don't know what holidays Australia has. You know what I mean? Like
What's,
their schedule,
what was the
their
other
school
date?
holidays probably calendar looks way different than ours.
Right. Okay, so let's wrap all of this up with finishing Liv's creepy account that she wrote in. So I'm going to just pick up where we left off. I was only a baby at the time, but her murder really affected everyone in Melbourne. Everyone who went to PLC knows who Carmen was. Her memory lives on, as well as the hope that she will get justice. The second one hits a little closer to home for me. This is the disappearance of my classmate's sister. Sally sees, I'm just going to call her Sally, because I don't know if I'm allowed to say her name. I didn't ask. Sally's sister and I were in year 12 when Sally disappeared from their home in the middle of the night. Sally went to bed early one night. Her grandma checked on her and she was asleep, but one of her sisters felt like she sensed something was off. It was a male figure, a shadow or a silhouette of a man. She thought maybe it was her sister's boyfriend that had snuck in, or her dad maybe had gotten up to check, but it wasn't them. Unfortunately, she dismissed it. The last time she saw Sally was getting up to use the restroom at around 3 a.m., and she has not been seen since. Sally's car keys, baby blanket, and purse were all missing from the home, but her bank accounts have not been touched since. No one has any idea what happened to her. Police are baffled and can't decide if she ran away, met with foul play, or, trigger warning, harmed herself. We are now all in our 30s, and Sally is still missing. No body, no sightings, no leads. Her picture is still up on the Victoria Police missing website, and her sister and brother are fighting to find out what happened. There are sadly still tattered billboard posters around local supermarkets with her photo, wondering what happened to Sally, begging for information. Thanks so much for reading. I hope this makes it into one of your episodes. I also love hearing Australian cases from you, like Phoebe Hanstruck, as long as you say Melbourne and not Melbourne. Sending love, XX, Liv.
Well, thank you, Liv, for sending that in. I mean,
yeah.
I hated
fuck that case. Fuck
and
Mr.
I'm
Cruel.
so sorry about Sally.
And I'm really I couldn't imagine like being a mother or being a child during this time. And I was watching this real crime episode that they had put out about it. And it's just like an Australian show. It's literally, I think it's the same exact one that we watched of Phoebe Hancock when they are trying to like get into the trash chute.
Reenacting it.
And they were talking about the psychological effects of the children and the parents that raise their children, how they continue to raise their children, and how now their children raise their children that were alive during this time. That it is so, it like generationally
My
scarred.
mom would have pulled me from school 100%.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Not even school. It's like parents were fortifying their homes. They were sleeping with they were like changing locations of where their children slept every single night.
Yep.
They were sleeping with their kids in between them. They were like double, triple locking the doors, finding an interior home, like bedroom. Parents were staying up all night armed, like just
so scary, dude.
watching.
I couldn't imagine.
No, I couldn't imagine. I mean, that is terrifying. And like
you hear stories, you know, we talk about people like BTK, like this guy, like these maniacs, these disgusting people. And then we have you just never put in that perspective. And then here we have a listener who that was her school. These are her people
in
her neighborhood.
Right.
And like that just puts it into an entire different perspective of how it won't ever happen to me can happen to you.
Right.
Is like how close that really is to you. And that's so fucking scary, dude. I can't stand this world. No. What is wrong with it? Why do people what does it? Why are people like that?
There's just like people that are fucked up.
But why? Like why would God put those people here on earth? A lot of these, making a serial killer, the mind of a serial killer, a lot of these people have some sort of adolescent
something trauma or sign that
something
this is happening.
That this is happening. And it doesn't even have to be trauma. So how could a 5-year-old who had no trauma but is showing signs of a sociopath let the devil reach him? You know what I mean? Like at 5 years old, like all children are God's children. So make it make fucking sense. Like
it's just that we have a just God, and that was the choice that he made, is that like giving you the Christian version of it.
No, I want to hear
it. But the answer to that question is that we were given the freedom of choice, which not many other religions practice. Like you have no choice but to be good. Whereas in our God within Christianity said you do have the choice. You can choose to go to hell, or you can choose to follow my commands and come to heaven and live the eternal life, or you burn eternally. So
then think of the mind aspect of it. Like, 'cause I really truly don't think that, I don't know. I don't understand how someone's brain could be wired like that.
I think
in my own head, I can't justify it being God and the devil. I
think that, honest to God, people that are just born with malicious intent, that, and you guys know that,
like karmic cycle, like their last life was karmic, just like they're back for a vengeance.
So here's my situation with like reincarnation and the karmic cycle. When you come in your first life, right, you have a clean slate. There's no karma. It's just a clean slate. So is that the first life that we fuck up and we're serial killers and we're that's why psychopaths,
and we're fixing that karma in the past,
and then so in every other life that we live,
we're fixing that karma,
and you have to live as many lives?
Or is it the other way? Or do we come in from up here and there's like 12 certain sorts of karma evils that we have to
go through,
and those are I don't know.
But like here's my point of view on it. I feel like there's different levels of evil, and never not in the deepest, oldest, and youngest parts of my soul would I ever believe that my soul would be ever capable of doing something like that. So this is where we're going. Or are you at the end of your karmic cycle and you're like, fuck it, I'm done. I don't care. Like, I just want out of this physical realm. I want to be put in eternal hell because I cannot fix this karmic cycle. Like, I've been doing it so many fucking times. I'm done trying to correct something that you fucked up years prior. But there's different levels of evil. There's different levels of sin. There's different levels of bad karma. So is my bad karma that I stole a piece of candy out of a jar and ran off, that it was free anyways, but in my mind I fucking stole it? Is that me doing bad karma because the intention was wrong? So why are some people's souls, mind, bodies able and capable of going past not only the physically acceptable in society, but morally wrong things, like taking someone else's life? Something that is so
I don't know, dude.
Unnatural. Like, would you ever look at, do I look at things and I'm like, I want to fucking kill you? Am I ever going to? No.
Right.
I want to like tap you a little bit and scream at your face.
I can't stop. I know I've said it before. I can't stop thinking of the child situation. You have a 5-year-old. Me at 5 years old, I saw a bunny. I'd be like, that is the cutest thing ever. I want to chase the bunny. Like, I want to follow it around. I want to see its nest. Would I ever lay my hands on it and hurt it? No. But then you also have children at 5 years old that are like, I want to squeeze its neck and chop its fucking tail off.
Maybe it's control of intrusive thoughts.
But like, were your intrusive thoughts there? Like, I want to squeeze that bunny's neck.
No, but I remember like, I'm going to jump off this thing and land on the couch. Like, I'm going to jump off the top railing and land on the couch on the ground and be totally fine. Like, I bet I could do it. Do you think I could do it? Like, in my head. And I'm like, fuck no, bitch.
Yeah, but I feel like intrinsic thoughts are like so different in like situations of like where it just involves yourself. Like, for that example, that's just yourself. When it comes to harming another living thing, like, that is so fucking different. So
another argument that's been made, and there has been some research on it, which I don't know how backed this is, so take this with a grain of salt, but there is believed that there is some sort of correlation in between the amount of testosterone that a child gets at a young age that has to do with, I want to kill the bunny.
Wow.
If there's a flush of unnaturally high, that would make sense. Because hormones, though our brain does hormones override anything. I mean, you see what happens to people when hormones get fucked.
Right. You're sitting there and your brain in your mouth is saying, I don't want to be crying, but you're sobbing your eyes out.
Exactly.
Hyperventilating.
Exactly. Like,
I don't know why I'm crying, but I'm crying because your hormones took over.
Exactly. And so there is allegedly some sort of a correlation, and I don't know for positive. I've not looked up the research myself.
That is interesting. Wow, my brain's kind of fucked. I really hated that case, but you covered it really well. I love the structure of it, and I love that it came from a listener and how you incorporated the creepy account. I think that was really cool.
Thanks. Liv,
love you.
You're grounded for a little bit. Don't recommend a case to me for a year.
Liv, she was hyper focused on your case, and we're at 2 hours. Ashley's gonna kill us.
Well, half of that's me pausing because I could not fucking say words.
No, but you did really good.
Thanks.
You didn't stop this entire time.
I know. Fuck it. I'm done. All right, guys. We're gonna bring the mood back up, I guess.
We're gonna bring the mood back up after wringing Bunny's neck.
Yeah. Fuck. Okay, guys, remember in the beginning when I said 136, I need you to go to that Instagram and let us know how you felt about the creepy account. Also, if you don't follow us on Instagram, it's Creeps and Crimes Podcast. Morgan is
Morg.m_G.
Mine is Taylar J with an A. You can head over to TikTok and follow us, which is Creeps and Crimes. Do you know what yours is? Morgan Mounts 3.
Morgan Mounts 3.
Mine is Taylar Jane 98 for like true crime shit, or for fun things, you can go to Taylar Jane 1. Oh, guys, if you're not in our Facebook groups, there's so much drama and tea going in there.
And if you've ever left a bad review, you should probably get in the Facebook group because they're talking shit on you.
They're talking shit about you, Allie. Anyways, we have 2 Facebook groups. One is for Patreons only, that you have to give our secret code that only Patreons get when they sign up. And then we have the secret CNC, I think it's called like Secret Creeps and Crimes group. I don't know. Yeah. It's got a shitty graphic from 2021.
We should change that.
I like began the process of making a new one the other day. But you can hop on there and you have to answer a few questions that only true CNC besties would know.
Good luck, because you all get it wrong.
Do you want to give a cheat sheet?
Yeah. Go. What's question 1?
Question 1 is, what is our favorite drinks or holiday? I can't remember. What's your favorite drink?
Guys, mine is Tito's Ginger Ale.
And honestly, it changes with times.
But that's like the iconic.
That's the iconic one. Mine's red wine, clearly. Or you could also say a dirty slut of a martini.
The second question is, what are
our pets'
Taylar
names?
And Morgan's pets' names? Mm-hmm. And it is Ollie, my golden retriever. Taylar's, well, this old answer was 2 cats. Now it's 3 cats. Taylar's cats, Mila.
Yep.
Nona.
Yep.
And Ophelia.
And y'all be calling them crazy fucking names, by the way.
Molly.
What was it? Mona. Neela. Y'all just be fucking
Nessie.
And then the last one is, what is our favorite holiday? But we're not even going to give that one away.
Yeah.
Because there's technically 2 right answers, but only one is really right. And then the last thing, if you haven't left a rating or a review wherever you listen, specifically, I'd love for it to be on Apple or on Spotify.
Just fucking do it.
Just fucking please do it.
I'm so sick of it.
And then later today, I want you to force either your favorite barista, drive-through worker, co-worker at your job that you're not super tight with to listen to Creeps and Crimes.
At least someone.
That's it. That's all
Share
that we
the love.
got. Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.